items. Item number 6 is resolution of Ariel Clark, pardon me, and the Chief Legislative Analyst report relative to including in the city's 2017-18 state legislative program support for SB 396, which would require employees to train their supervisors in the prevention of all forms of harassment based on gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation.
Okay, thank you. Why don't we, I believe we can proceed with items 2, 4, 5, and 6 and just deal with them, and then we'll go into items 1 and 3. So I have no cards on those items, so without objection, those items will be deemed approved. Okay, so in fact, just to make it technically accurate on items 2, adopt the recommendations of the chair. 4, adopt the recommendations of the chair. 5, adopt the CLA report and resolutions. 6, adopt the CLA report and resolution. So with that said, these items will be deemed approved. Mr. Weezer.
Item 1, I just have a quick question, item 1, before we approve that item. It's on the fees, correct?
You want to bring somebody up?
Yes, just on the fees. My question, either the staff, whatever staff, CAO, there's a recommended fee that that applies to all retail and manufacturers. I'm wondering if there should be a differential fee based on the type of activity, manufacturer versus retail. Why are we applying the same fee for both?
Good morning, Jason Clean, Office of the City Administrative Officer. The fees in the report are actually intended for the Prop D compliant dispensaries as they submit their applications seeking licensure in advance of the state licensing program. So these are not intended to actually be the fees that would be set forth for cultivation, manufacturing, or any of the other license types. Our office is currently working with Ms. Packer to identify what the business processes and workflows will be for those other license types, and we will report back at a later date with recommended fees for those different application types.
Okay, so to be clear, these are only for the Prop D.
Correct, sir.
Okay, great, thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Weezer.
That's okay.
Sorry, I had a quick family emergency that I had to deal with. But you asked about item 1, so let's just move. I want to make sure on items 2, 4, 5, and 6 that we've taken action. I read those into the record and indicated that those items would be approved.
Yes, Mr. Chair, and also for items 2 and 4, the recommendations from the chair have been or are being distributed to the public for viewing and will also be entered into the record.
Okay, thank you. So now, Mr. Weezer, again, I apologize. So now back to some of your concerns.
Oh, that's fine. I asked a question on item number 1. I thought you were moving that one as well. So, okay.
No, I'm not going to move that until we finish with the cards. So what I'm going to do is we do have a lot of cards. We'll do what we've been doing for over a year, try to take as much comment from the public as we can. But let me just address a couple of things going forward. I recognize that there are concerns by some of our cultivators and what have you, and your concerns don't think that they fall on deaf ears, okay? I have not got to a point yet where I could make recommendations to the other members of this committee how we should proceed on that item. But I recognize that it's an issue, and that issue will be addressed. And this committee, I think, has a track record of addressing issues of the industry. We have been very realistic. We've been very pragmatic. We're trying to come up with something that's fair and something that functions. But the reason why I want to proceed and instruct the city attorney's office to begin putting this draft together, a draft that I would think that 80% of it, most of the people could live with, is because that is a arduous process, and I want them to get started on that. I will be listening to concerns and recommendations from the industry and our colleagues in order to deal with how we're going to figure out how to proceed with cultivators, and Lord knows we want to protect jobs. But at this point, it makes sense to me that we at least instruct the city attorney's office to begin the process of drafting. And then we'll figure out, as we did with licenses and as we did with other issues, how we're going to deal with this. I'm not going to wait and then be panicked for time when we attempt to make this deadline. So at least if we can get them moving, I'll listen to your concerns, and then we'll try to come up with a way to address that as well. Those of you that have been coming to these hearings on a regular basis, I think that you would all agree that we have listened, we have been fair, we have been realistic, we keep the best interests of the city in mind, we keep the best interests of the community in mind, and the best interests of the industry in mind. So with that said, I'm going to begin with, why don't we start taking cards, Mr. Clerk, on item 3. That's where I have the majority of cards at this point. So I have a Seth, is it gentleman? And I have some really creative writing. I think it's, I can't quite, is the last name Horton here? I'm going to let you. Zachary Williams, Regina Taylor, Pumar, Stephen, maybe? Okay, go ahead.
My name is Seth Gentleman. I'm a THC Design. In the city's current draft cannabis regulations, a majority of LA commercial cannabis businesses will be unfairly blocked from participating in California's state cannabis licensing process, forcing existing medical marijuana dispensary suppliers to shut down or face severe penalties and consequences. This will guarantee that businesses will face financial ruin and have to lay off thousands of employees across LA. Operators will be forced to shut down and set up their businesses outside of LA, and this will force existing LA dispensaries to end long-standing relationships, thereby forcing them to work with unknown businesses that were able to secure local authority. If the draft regulations stand as is, there will be a massive loss of well-paying LA jobs and cost the city millions of dollars.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning, Councilman. My name is Zachary Williams. I'm a U.S. Naval veteran. I served 9 years in the U.S. Navy as a medic. While in the U.S. Navy, I developed PTSD, specifically a fear for the unknown and a loss of control. As I read this proposal, I am triggered by the uncertainty it presents. A break in the supply chain without a loss in demand would send rolling effects throughout the industry in LA. Many LA residents, including myself and other veterans, would lose their jobs outright. With a break in the supply chain and no reduction in demand, we would also create many openings for illegal markets and businesses outside of LA to bring their products in, reducing the taxes and income that the city of LA would accrue. In addition to that, the taxes paid by many of the veterans and fellow workers at my company and other companies would be lost on the city of LA as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We should keep the applause down, then I can get to more speakers. So go ahead. Oh, and at this point, if you want to speak, turn in a card now. Again, I don't know if I'm going to get to everybody. We're going to try in about 2 minutes. Mr. Clerk won't accept any more cards. Yes, identify yourself and welcome.
Good morning. My name is Regina Taylor with THC Design. The current regulations compel licensed existing medical marijuana dispensaries to end their long-term relationships with trusted suppliers and replace them with unknown businesses. This will block patients from accessing the high-quality medicine they need and are used to getting from their trusted suppliers. Forcing suppliers and dispensaries in Los Angeles to close their doors until a local authority process is available at a time still to be determined would greatly affect a massive amount of jobs in Los Angeles, including mine and the jobs of people I care about. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Stephen Passmore. I think I'm the colorful handwriting you had.
It looks nice.
Thank you. I'm a combat veteran. I fought in the Iraq War.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I returned to this country with some baggage from my deployment. Cannabis was something that helped me get through it. As I became familiar with the cannabis industry, I wanted to get involved. I felt it was a way that I can continue serving. And I was given that opportunity through THC Design to be able to farm and provide the gift that was given to me. My father once told me something when I was young, which is something that I kept with me and I've applied to everything in my life. He said, if you have time to do it twice, you have time to do it right the first time. And so I want to leave that with you guys to allow people like me to maintain purpose. And I appreciate you and your time. Thank you.
No, I appreciate you. And like I said before we started, guys, like I said before we started, I recognize that that's a flaw. I'm going to address it. Just haven't quite figured out how. But I'm not going to stop the process until I figure out how. So that's why this will be an opportunity for me to get recommendations and suggestions. You guys can send things into my office. And I've already had some ideas. I'm just not ready with it today. But I appreciate your service. I'm glad that you've found a place where, you can thrive. And I don't want to eliminate that. That you can rest assured of. Yes, come on.
Ryan Gentleman, THC Design. Obviously, my team has just emphasized the point of jobs. Another thing I want to emphasize is my understanding is there's a possibility that we don't have a provisional for manufacturing or some form of protection because we don't want to encourage the black market, which I totally understand. And you look at a lot of people that have been breaking the law for years as the black market. But this is a group of people, obviously, in this room that's trying to do the correct thing. This is a group of people that supplies the pre-ICOs. So if there's one way to look at, who is trying to be legitimate, it's the individuals that are supplying the pre-ICOs, supplying the limited immunity shops that we currently have. That, to me, is one way that we can look at some type of protection for the production and manufacture side is who's supplying the pre-ICOs, who's paying taxes. Those are legitimate operators, or at least people that have tried to be as legitimate as they could in this time of uncertainty.
Good suggestions. I got you. Okay, now I'm looking for Kevin Flores, Tomar, Yolanda Aldaz. Is it a Silverstein? First initial J. Please come forward and identify yourself. In fact, I'm going to assume you're Kevin because I know the gentleman behind you.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead, Kevin.
Good morning, council members. My name is Kevin Flores, and I'm a resident of LA County. I come here today to express my support for licensing to local cannabis growers and bring awareness to the city about the potential job loss at stake. For many years, I have worked for local cannabis cultivators who have provided me with the opportunity to earn a stable living with generous wages. This has allowed me to provide for my son and even pay off my student loan. The need to grant licenses to local operations is essential for many mothers and fathers in the city to continue to make a good living. This city and the county in general cannot risk more unemployment, especially with the current affordable housing and homelessness crisis. I urge the city council to please help keep jobs alive and prevent more Angelinos from joining the unemployment line. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Tomar, followed by Yolanda, followed by Silverstein, then a Michael Jensen. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for having me here. My name is Tomer Graciani, and I'm here representing the Southern California Coalition, myself, and the City of LA. I guess this comment is more directed for the record and for the city attorney. one of the things that I've learned in elementary school in history was those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And I think by not allowing people that want to operate legally and pay taxes the ability to do so, by licensing both cultivators or temporary licensing or some sort of a grace transition period for cultivators, for manufacturers, what you're going to do is lose the people that want to pay taxes. They're not going to be able to. And the people that don't want to pay taxes are going to keep not paying taxes. It's going to make it harder for the people that want to operate legally to continue on operating. If the Prop D compliant dispensaries that are supposed to be in business, they can't get the proper medicine, people will get it somewhere else. And we really should do something to prevent it.
Thank you. Next, is it Yolanda? Hey.
Good morning, sir. How are you today?
Good.
Yolanda Aldaz with DC Collective and UCBA. On behalf of UCBA, we would like to we want to show our appreciation for the city's efforts to get us to this point and the recommendations for priority processing. However, we respectfully do ask for some clarifications. We need to clarify that Prop M priority processing applicants can apply for retail or commercial cannabis activity and for cultivation commercial cannabis activity licenses. It is essential to have a separate cultivation license in order to, 1, comply with the department's operating requirements for cultivation businesses, and get a state license for commercial cultivation activity. So for us, we ask you to please take these recommendations, look at them, and help us create those clear guidelines that are needed to ensure, especially collectives like ours that are vertically integrated, we need that dual licensing, and we need to make sure that that's clarified on the guidelines.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to be here again.
Good to see you.
Thank you, sir.
Next, please.
Hello, Councilman Wesson.
Hey.
João Silverstein from UCBA. And I have two brief requests. First, we'd like to request the ability to receive a distribution commercial cannabis activity license along with retail and cultivation licenses to be able to comply with the department and state's operating requirements. The distribution license should sunset if associated with a dispensary in a non-conforming zone, along with the cultivation license, and be limited to the cultivation and retail at the location of the BTRC. Secondly, we would like you to consider the removal of the arbitrary date of January 1st, 2017, and replace it with at the time of application as the basis for canopy size restriction on a Prop D shop in a non-conforming zone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm looking for David. Is it Sparrow? David Sparrow, and then Virgil, Adam Spiker, and Seth Hickabeck. Yes, sir. Identify yourself and welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Michael Jensen from the Churns Law Group. You began by saying that we want to start with a pragmatic approach to licensing. And I think what this does is exactly the opposite. It leaves any non-pre-ICO dispensary in a area of uncertainty until they get licensed, where they will either have to shut down or move. And I don't think that that's what voters voted for in March, and I don't think that that's what we should be doing to pragmatically handle the licensing process in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning. Thank you for your time. My name is David Sparrow. I'm with RHS, and I'm on the advisory board of the SEC. I have a successful business that has a number of employees. We pay a very good wage. Our starting salary, average salary, is $40,000 a year, and we provide full health benefits for all of our employees and their families. The uncertainty that this rule or law puts in place guarantees that for me to maintain my business legally, I need to move. I don't want to move, but I feel like I'm being forced to move out of the city and take those jobs out of the city. The city will lose the tax revenue, not just from the income tax and the sales tax that these people pay, and the taxes that my company pays. We pay, obviously, a lot of income tax, Social Security, all this stuff we pay. The city needs the money, the city needs the jobs, and the city needs this business to be viable. Please consider that.
No, and we will. Thank you for coming out. Mr. Spiker?
Mr. President, I first off just want to thank you and this committee on behalf of our coalition for the leadership, the work that you guys are doing to try and solve something that's incredibly complex. The second thing I would say is obviously this room is concerned about being forced to shut down, and not have their operations continue. If that does happen, these are the ones that would comply because they care about being regulated. It's the ones that we all agree we need to close down that are going to stay open and still supply product to meet the demand that's out there. We would like to see something considered where we explore the relationships the pre-ICOs, the legitimate dispensaries have on the production side. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. I thought I called Virgil. And Donnie Anderson. And after Donnie, is it Bobby V? Yes.
Good morning, sirs.
Hey, man, good to see you.
Good to see you, sir. I'm Seth Hilsbeck, CEO of Quality Concentrates, and also on behalf of the Southern California Coalition. I know we're kind of sound like a broken record here, but we obviously have a room full of concerned people and business owners that want to help this city and also want to stay in this city. I've lived here for almost 3 years now, and I absolutely love this city, and I want to continue to operate and be an example and a business leader in this city with this new industry. So, thank you very much for your time, sirs.
No, thank you, and it's good to see you again.
It's good to see you.
Virgil, come on down. And then is this, last name is Wells, I believe, and Rafael Chavez. So if I call you and you come get in line, more people are going to get a chance to speak. Yeah, Virgil. Donnie, if you're here, I called you. Yes.
Good morning. My name is Virgil Grant, President of Southern California Coalition, co-founder of California Minority Alliance. I just really came to the mic just to say thank you. Thank you for this long and arduous process that we're going through. We know that it's a lot of work that still needs to be done. As you stated before, it will not get done all at one time. We're confident that what doesn't get done now will get done later. And I just came up here to thank you guys for your hard work and continuous hard work. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. Trust me, that means a lot. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Tara Wells, and I am a longtime 35-year resident of Los Angeles, a property owner, a mother, a grandmother, cannabis patient, and also a owner in a delivery service that supplies patients all over the city and the state of California. And we employ over 50 people who would all lose their jobs under this not ability to have licensing for several months. I propose that we do some kind of interim grace period where operating businesses can actually continue to operate and apply for the licenses and do everything that we are trying to do to become legal in the state of California and the city of LA. I really applaud your efforts. I know it's been so terribly hard doing what you've been doing, and I think you're doing a great job, and I so appreciate that you're open-minded to what this community needs. So thank you. Please consider not shutting us all down.
But you know, Ms. Wells, I'm glad you brought that up because that's the fragments of the idea that I'm kicking around in my mind right now. And so something like that. Haven't quite sorted it out yet.
Maybe we do a quick application, and as long as we're in the application process, we have 3 to 6 months to get our license or something like that. But we are legitimate operators who employ a lot of people.
So just know that's what I'm thinking about, and I am inviting individuals, not just organizations. If you have a thought, write it down, send it in. But what I am going to do is before this, when this hearing is over, at least try to put us in a position to instruct the city attorney's office to begin working on the overall, which it would appear that we have a lot of support for like 75, 80%. So let's start on that, and then we'll spend the remaining time focused on that 15 to 25% where there are differences. So I appreciate you coming down, but more importantly, I appreciate a recommendation.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please. Yes.
Good morning, Council. My name is Rafael Chavez, and I'm a consultant. I'm also a member of UCBA, and I wanted to recommend that the city create a pathway for the issuance of provisional licenses to applicants who are engaged in non-dispensary commercial cannabis activity, such as cultivation. As you may or may not know, what Prop D created was a web of growers that assumed protection by attaching themselves to Prop Ds.
Yeah, I get
and
that.
A lot of my clients are those types of growers and felt that they were doing everything by the book and that they were legal, but now they're going to be forced to shut down unless you create some kind of pathway for them.
But see, not to cut you off, but so I can engage you in the
Yes,
last 20 seconds. That's something that I'm noodling on as well, because I've heard that, you know, with the Prop D folk, who did they deal with and what was that relationship like? So I just,
Yeah,
like I
it was-
said, I'm not ready today to say we're going to do this, but those are the types of questions that I want to explore. So thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to also mention something about enforcement needs to be done for the
I
bad players.
agree.
in the business.
No, I agree with you. So again, I was looking for Bobby V, I think it was, or Bobby something with a V. Zachary Pitts. Is this Rita Villa? Edith Chin? When I just keep coming, because I don't know if I'm going to get to everybody. Katie Podian and Melanie Lutheran. Yes, ma'am. Identify yourself and welcome.
Good morning, I'm Rita Villa, one of the Cannabis Commissioners, but I'm here today speaking on behalf of the Studio City Neighborhood Council and requesting a couple extra
I
minutes.
thought you were familiar.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay, so obviously we submitted a CIS, and we're grateful that obviously the licensing portion of it got taken care of, our request for that, and we appreciate that. We continue to have concern about the regulation of edibles and the financial operations, the ability to have a bank and proper financing. So those concerns continue, and I just refer you to our CIS for that. I also wanted to address specific points in the regulation on page 9 and number 3. It talks about the department will determine eligibility for Prop M priority processing, and then their determination will be final. But I just wondered why there would be no appeal for the commission under that instance. So I would just ask you to consider appeal to the condition when they were asking for the Prop M priority processing.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, my other point
And the
is...
reason why is because they put in a community impact statement. She's representing the neighborhood council. We do have a process with the city of LA that would afford the neighborhood councils a little more time. So go ahead.
Thank you. Then I would like to refer to page 16, where it talks specifically about the applicants providing information to the neighborhood council. And I just think there has to be a slight revision on that, because the neighborhood council, and I know neighborhood councils, may determine that they don't want to take something up or not take something up. And I don't think that the applicants should be disadvantaged because a neighborhood council won't take it up.
Gotcha.
So I think the applicant should just have the responsibility to address it with the neighborhood council and follow the appropriate forms and requests with them. But if the neighborhood council doesn't take it up, I don't think the applicants should be penalized. So,
Okay, Rita, would you do me a favor and
Yes, sir.
maybe send Andrew a note
of course.
highlighting
All right.
these things, and he'll give it to me?
Yes. Also, the other item is on page 22. It talks about the advertising in item number 12, and it says, that there would be no off-site signs would be permitted, but I want to be sure that that includes billboards specifically, and I think it should be specifically mentioned in there that billboards would be prohibited. Also, inflatables and those poles that they stick in with the flaggy thingy, those should be prohibited. And then my last point is on item number 41. I continue to have concern with respect to the renewal process. I think, as we had mentioned in our original CIS, I think there should be some form of compliance audit required for everyone with their renewal process, that compliance audit be submitted, and that, and so we continue to express that concern and request that be incorporated into the process. Thank you for your consideration.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Get that to Drew, though. Get it to Andrew. Yes, identify yourself, and good to see you again.
Hi, my name is Zachary Pitts. I'm with the LA Delivery Alliance and the SCC.
I know that this has already been said almost ad nauseum already, but really there are so many businesses in this city that would be forced to shut down and would go out of operation if they cannot have some sort of provisional licensing or allowed to continue to operate while we go through the full application process. We have small businesses, we have minority-owned businesses, mom and pop shops or businesses that really just, we employ a lot of people, we're paying our taxes, but we need that protection while we go through the application process. And so I really encourage you to make sure that the licensing is something that is affordable and that we're protected. So
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker, please. Identify yourself.
Good morning, Chairman. My name is Edith Chen. I'm representing pre-ICU dispensary called Hollywood. Today that I would like to make a couple of points. Our business have been function as a vertical integration platform. It's been like that for 11 years because of all the regulations that city has been imposed, and we've been comply with all the regulations until today, and we will do it in the future. So we do need not only just to retail, but we do need also manufacturing and cultivation license as well, and we worked really hard to comply and then pay all taxes to all the government agencies. And I'd like to make a point that LA City may not want to give out a license to an individual or any collective or cooperative that have been operating illegally, so-called not paying tax, to give them a license. I don't think that that's fair, nor it should not be a benchmark.
Thank you.
And thank you for
Ms.
the
Chen. Thank you.
opportunity.
Next speaker, please come forward. And then I guess I'm gonna, is there a Christian Teramoto, Jason Teramoto, Robert Turner? Yes.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Katie Podine. I act as General Counsel of the UCBA, and I would like to make 2 points on the regulations. One is that in regards to the surrendering of a license if the business has been closed for 30 consecutive days, I respectfully request that this a change be made that the section shall not apply to temporary closures for the purposes of construction, remodeling, or as a result of an enforcement proceeding by the department. I don't believe it's the city's intent to have these businesses surrender their license due to construction or circumstances beyond their control.
I didn't think about that.
My
Okay.
other point I'd like to make just real quickly is that in regards to the sales or to the licensing of alcohol and tobacco, that it aligns with state law so that tobacco and alcohol cannot be sold on the same premises, but the applicant can still hold those licenses. And that's what the state requires.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, identify yourself, please.
My name is Melanie Lutheran. I'm an attorney at Schwartzstein, Sapir, Dorman, and Summers. Our firm is counsel to UFCW Local 770.
Yeah.
We would like to thank Council President Wesson, Council Members Huizar and Harris-Dawson for ensuring that cannabis workers' voices are a part of this public process. And we appreciate the opportunity to address the revised draft requirements today. We thank you for supporting cannabis workers through recommendations 2 and 4. While some of the concerns that we have touched on in our previous testimony are addressed in the draft requirements, the language still needs to be expanded to ensure that cannabis employers are required to comply with local and state law, that workers are protected against retaliation, that workers in work sites with more than 10 employees are protected by labor peace agreements. And finally, that workers in the new industry where there is potential for turnover are protected by a worker retention ordinance. We reiterate our commitment to working with the city on drafting a social equity program that benefits workers and owners from communities disproportionately impacted by
Thank
the
you.
law.
Thank you. So, next.
Hi there. My name is Kristen Heidelbach Teramoto. I serve as an international representative for the IBT and the Cannabis Division Director for the Teamsters. We're here today because our main concern is what is going to happen to the workers in your city if some of these businesses are forced to shut down. And it's been said time and time again in the room already that the people that are going to be directly affected, and we've built relationships, the Teamsters have built relationships with these workers. We have seen what happens to the workers once a location is either shut down or raided. And this directly affects your city. You have the entire state of California watching you. You guys are a huge, robust market, and we just want to see the right thing happen for the workers in your city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Board Chair, this is one of the first times I've ever gotten to follow my wife on a public address, so it's a privilege. Let me first start off by repeating and echoing some of the other sentiments that were just more or less supportive of this entire process. It is arduous. And I also want to go one step further because prior to my experience in this industry, I served 10 years in the U.S. House of Representatives, so I know what this process is going to be like on the staff and the hours that they're going to be putting in. So, again, thank you very much for your support and for your leadership on this, but I also want to extend that to the staff. I have a couple of quick points. First and foremost is, we have 50 distribution points in LA and the surrounding cities. Our farms, and my experience in this industry predates my career with the feds. You can Google that. You'll see a whole bunch of stuff about me in D.C. and back up in Northern California with the California Democratic Caucus and law enforcement up there, but not a whole lot here. And if you allow me 15 more seconds, just
You
really
got it.
Closing off the points of distribution hurts local jobs and threatens local patients' access. It also hurts the surrounding counties that we do business with. We have 3 separate entities that have a combined total of 3.1 million square feet that do strictly cultivation. That's about 9 million pounds altogether, which will frankly never see the market if this happens, because closing off these distribution points ends up impacting city revenues in some of these other counties and surrounding towns by about $3 million. In some cases, that's 25% of their entire annual budget.
All right.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Jay. Okay. Robert?
Good morning. Robert Turner, representing Teamsters Joint Council 42. You've heard most of my talking points, so I'd just like to be on record as being opposing the shutdown of January 2, 2018.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good to see you. So if I can get Gregory, I think it's McQuarian, Yelena Kachko, Tatiana, is that Bruner or Bremer? Jeff? Jared, Jared. I thought I saw Jared earlier. Come on down, Jared. I don't see the mohawk, but I did see it earlier. So Jared and, okay. I'm putting Mr. Weezer on extra duty. I need help with that. Yes.
Good morning, honorable council members. My name is Gregory Magarian. I'm president of Greater Los Angeles Collectives Alliance, a property operator, chair for veterans for the Southern California Coalition. First, I want to say thank you for all the hard work that you're doing to get us to this point. 2 things I want to bring up. One, which was mentioned several times, was the cultivators and manufacturers that continue to support the property operators. As a property operator, we've done what's called cultivation agreements and different agreements so we can maintain that steady supply to the patients. An example, I would like to provide a solution. In Mendocino County, in Ukiah, before they got into licensing of cultivators, the sheriff asked that if you're a cultivator and you have a cultivation agreement with a legal retailer, that they would allow you to continue to operate while you were waiting for your license. I'm not saying that that's the solution, but there are solutions out there that we could look at that have worked in the past. Also, as a property operator, even though it might be an oversight, I'd like to just say in processing. So we cultivate on site and we retail, but also remember, rolling joints, packaging, trimming, anything other than the cultivation and retail is processing.
Thanks.
So how can we get it from the garage to the retail if we have no processing? Thank you.
And I think it's the name I think I was looking for is Tangi Danielle or Daniel. Yes.
Good morning. Yelena Kachko, General Counsel for UCBA. First of all, thank you for all your hard work. I know it's a difficult task to balance the interests of the city, the public, and the industry. One of the portions of the ordinance contains a restriction on the canopy size of Prop M eligible dispensaries. Particularly, there's an arbitrary date of January 1st, 2017, and this is contrary to Measure M that specifically said that they can continue operating at the one location identified in the original BTRC and can get licensed for any commercial cannabis activity being conducted at that location. That means that they can apply at the time of application for the canopy size that's on site. And they're able to license, and they're able to receive a final response based on the location that they're at the time of application. That's exactly what Measure M contemplates.
Thank you. So if I could get, is this Tatiana maybe? Yes.
Good morning, Tatiana Brenner, Counsel for UCBA. I'd like to respectfully request that the city reinstate the previous recommendation to phase out on-site cultivation tied to Prop D dispensaries to 2024. The new recommendation to phase out on-site cultivation by December 31st, 2020 is too close for most dispensary owners to amortize their investment in these facilities, including the investment that will be required to comply with city and state operating requirements, especially with license and inspection fees. These dispensary owners have already expended so many funds to comply with all the city requirements, and the previous draft allowed for phase out by 2024, and we think that that should be in the new ordinance as well. Otherwise, it poses a huge financial burden to the dispensary owners and cultivators for on-site cultivation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Bruce Margolin, Jorge Bareilles. I don't see Jared yet, and you are?
Hi, I'm Tanjanika Daniel.
Say that again.
Tanjanika Daniel.
That's not what that said. Okay, good to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you guys so much. I wanted to come just to say thank you again and to repeat basically what others have said. I'm coming as a patient. I'm a two-time OIF Marine Corps veteran as well, and I come as a patient and as a minority business owner in this space, and I don't want to be a criminal as a patient or as a business owner. So I would love to be able to continue manufacturing with the cultivators that I have a connection with and a relationship with, and I want to continue doing business here in the city of LA.
So
Thank you.
Do you manufacture? What do you do?
I have a cannabis skincare line of beard oil and beard balm, and so I manufacture and I have those relationships with cultivators to continue my job.
Okay, all right. You sure you didn't put down Tangy?
It's Tangy. Tanjanika Tangy, yes.
All right.
Thank you.
So you were right, Mr. Weezer. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Your Honor. Bruce Margolin.
No.
Too close to the microphone?
No, Your Honor part. Just
well,
her,
you are.
Just Mr. Chair, Herb.
You are an honor. I mean, I think it's an honorable post you're doing. I use that word too often in court. I apologize. Hope you don't mind being called Your Honor. Nevertheless.
And give him back his time. I was messing with you. It's good to see you, sir.
Sir, again, you too, sir. Bruce Margolin, representing NORML, the National Organization of Reform and Marijuana Laws. I'm back here to discuss again this on-site consumption issue that I think is vitally important. I know from the LA Times, your representative indicated it's an issue you will get to. But in the meantime, marijuana users are effectively being denied their opportunity to use marijuana legally, even though we passed Prop 64, et cetera, because the current status with denying on-site consumption means that they have no place to go unless they own a residence or have access to a residence, which is completely unfair. I don't think it's intended by Prop 64 or by Prop M that they would exclude people having a legal way to use it. So it's nothing I don't think you should put on the back burner. Another issue I think is important to consider is a social equity issue that I know you're struggling about how to deal with that. May I just respectfully recommend you consider what they do in the Ivy League schools to determine how they qualify social equity. And finally, I know I'm past time, one final thing, to change your program or your regulations regarding giving priority to people that are cultivating has put them in a very difficult position. Many have actually bought property or leased property. They've hired lawyers. I think you should consider some way to include them in that priority zone. If you don't do it now, in the future, for those who can
Gotcha.
show that they've gotten involved.
Gotcha. And Mr. Margolin, part of today's hearing will be a recommendation on report backs as to how we address this, where and how people can use the product. So we will be getting report backs that will analyze what goes on in the other jurisdictions, how they dealt with this. So know that it's not on the back burner. It's just we're doing as much as we can.
I know, and I respect
and
that.
I'm proud of where we are. And I just want you to know that your recommendations don't fall on deaf ears.
Thank you. I want to remind you also one other thing. When people use the herb, they go to a location. If they have an opportunity to experience what it's going to do for them, medically or otherwise, and be able to discuss that with the bud tenders or other people at the location, that'd be very effective in preventing things like overconsumption, etc.
Okay.
And beyond that, there are other venues that are very important that people should be able to
You know what?
participate.
I want to get Kaylin. Can you get Mr. Margolin's card or something? Maybe I may want to have her offline.
Thank you.
So let me get the next speaker.
Thank you. I'm sorry it
And-
takes so
and
long.
here's-
I apologize.
This is Kaylin over here to the. Okay. Yes, sir. And you are.
Jorge Borelli with
Okay.
Organic Kind Delivery.
And hold tight, Jorge. Sean, is it Stogel, Cameron Clark, Ariel Clark, and Ruben Honig? Yes, go ahead.
I want to thank you for your leadership, and I understand that you guys have a lot to deal with. I'm not going to add anything new. I just want to put a face to the people who are being negatively affected by the proposal as it stands. I am a son of 2 immigrants. I've been here for 27 years in Los Angeles. I own a business that has 10 full-time employees. We pay them on payroll. We want to abide by all the laws, pay all the taxes, but as the proposal stands right now, we would not be able to get our permits and we would be out of business. That would also have a negative effect on our thousands of members in our community. So I'm here to ask that please create an avenue for people like us that we can stay in business and be a part of this growing industry.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for coming down. Yes, next speaker.
Good morning. My name is Cameron Clark. Mr. President, Los Angeles is global ground zero for cannabis. My company is a local manufacturer employing several dozen people at excellent wages who want to keep their jobs. We supported Prop M, and at a fundraiser, you told the group that you wanted to support a thriving industry. The current proposed regulations don't support a thriving industry. They hamper development and fundraising, by the way. It's extremely difficult to raise funds from investors when the licensing proposals are such an unknown. Why would the city propose regulations which add burden on local manufacturers and cultivators? It's inconceivable how I can shut down my business while waiting for the city to approve my application and also survive. Running a cannabis business is already challenging. Please don't make it more difficult for good operators to survive these challenging times. Allow us to efficiently get local licenses we deserve, stay in business, and avoid moving to a different city. Thank you.
Okay, and good to see you again. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Sean Stogel, and I'm a patient cultivator. Esteemed members of the City Council, thank you for taking the time to listen to the issues presented today. I would like to take this time to speak about compassion. Compassion is designed as a feeling of deep sympathy and sorrow for one who is stricken by misfortune, accompanied by a strong desire to alleviate that suffering. 21 years ago, the voters of the state of California recognized the need for compassion and passed a revolutionary bill that sought to alleviate the suffering from a variety of ailments to which cannabis has shown to safely and effectively treat. During this time, disabled patients like myself have lived in the shadows, cultivating to provide relief for others who could not do so themselves, oftentimes at great risk to our freedoms and liberty, being treated as second-class citizens and undesirable citizens, all because we have a belief in a medicine that has helped us. I've attended many city council meetings on the issue in the past, but this is the first time I've been compelled to speak.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Last sentence, man.
Okay. The state of California has recognized that a disruption to the supply of quality patient medicine would be detrimental to the core that has supported this industry for the past 21 years, and as such, California is taking the steps to allow these gray market businesses to operate provisionally in the upcoming year. The latest draft of the city regulations are completely devoid of this compassion, putting long-term operators who want to comply and be a
Okay.
part of the system at risk of being left behind.
All right, thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon. My name is Ariel Clark. I'm chairwoman of the Los Angeles Cannabis Task Force. Thank you all so much for all your work on this. I know these issues are very complex. That said, the draft in its current form is extremely problematic, and I stand here today.
Let's stop our time for 1 minute. Are you talking about the entire draft, or are you talking about one section, one item in particular?
In particular, the...
Well, why don't we just go straight to the in particular,
Okay.
and you can give her minute back.
Sure, thanks. The draft, the section that doesn't allow current operators, distributors, growers, manufacturers, and other current LA business owners and employers some sort of pathway to permitting as they're applying to the city. So we strongly urge the City Council or for this committee to please revise the draft to provide this sort of a pathway. I know we care very much about diversity in the industry, women, people of color, veteran-owned businesses, LA businesses, and all the employees that benefit from this industry. And as it stands, a lot of these businesses are going to need to close down. So we really urge the city to create that pathway, and I'd be happy to also submit on behalf of the task force as well as our law firm some recommendations that we have that we've seen around the state and other municipalities.
Well, I'd love to see that. And like I said, when we opened the meeting, I realized that that's a flaw, and we're going to try to deal with it. But I'm not going to let one flaw slow down the process of what we've been working on, all of us, for over a year.
Totally
so
agreed. And
There's
appreciate
always
it.
a method to my madness. There always is.
Great, thank you.
Next speaker. Hey, man, good to see you again.
Good to see you, too. Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Ruben Honig, and I come here today not only as the Executive Director of the LA Cannabis Task Force, but truly as a patient. As the recommendations read right now, with the closing of non-retail establishments during the application period, including manufacturers, cultivators, delivery services, distributors, and labs, patients such as myself will lose access to the medicine that they rely on. Not only that, but you will create thousands of criminals in the city out of those who want to comply with the law of the state, and Measure M that was passed with 80% of the vote. Through fair and responsible regulations, by bringing those who want to comply with the law out of the shadows immediately, you will ensure a legitimate, safe, tax-generating industry and cannabis market that was voted for again in Measure M. But instead, you're going to shut them down, create a massive illegal market. Thousands of people will lose their jobs and their livelihoods. We ask you to change this public policy, please, as soon as you can, and provide a pathway forward for these businesses.
Okay, Rube. All right, so I need Harmony, Raymond, Moses, is it Shakarian, Sammy Imzali, Oliver Summers, Lisa Dedamore. Yes, go ahead, identify yourself.
Hello, my name is Harmony Raymond with LA Bloom Holdings. I'm also supporting the Los Angeles Cannabis Task Force. So I want to thank you for allowing me to speak, and I know this is difficult, but it's also difficult to be an operator in this space, and difficult, as you know. So I'm echoing the concerns of others who have spoke. I don't want to have to reiterate that, but as a cultivator, shutting down means all stages of operation. So to maintain and keep your location, you have to still continue to pay rent. And then if you do get a license, then you have to start all over again. So from seed to clone to harvest, it could be another year before you're seeing any type of revenue. So my concern is not people here who are fighting for regulations, that are trying to do the right thing, but more for those who are on the fence. And my concern is that they're just going to remain in the illicit market, and that's just a concern. So I think that, having some pathway or some type of provisionary license would be beneficial. So that would be my recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Raymond. Next, please come forward.
Hello, Council.
Yes.
Sammy Mazzali. I am here with the LA Cannabis Task Force and also Cali Kush Tours. We do tourism for the cannabis industry, or we plan on doing tourism for a legal cannabis industry. I feel like everything I want to say was said, but I just want to reiterate the point that the people that are being punished by this are the ones that are trying to comply with the laws, and Yeah, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Gotcha. Hi there.
My name is Lisa Dedamore. I'm here on behalf of Grace Collective. I just wanted to have my voice heard if collectives are forced to be shut down. I know you've already heard it, employees will be impacted, but also the social programs that we're involved with. We do a lot of things helping people that are seriously ill. They're not going to get their medicine. There's the other programs that we're doing, like teaching students at UCLA. They're not going to be able to figure out what they need to learn. And so there's a lot of things that would be shut down along with that. I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Then I'm going to look for James Lawrence, James, and a Joy Thompson. Yes.
I'm Oliver Summers. How are you, gentlemen? It's been a minute since you guys have seen me standing up here. I first came here to speak about medical marijuana in 2005.
Wow.
2006, my club was shut down, and you told me I would have a fair hearing to reopen, and I never got it. And now, 10 years later, since 2007, passed the interim control ordinance. 10 years as of last week. And I've sat here countless times, many of my colleagues have, and we've heard the let's see what our neighborhood impact is and all of these things, and you just betrayed us over and over again. And this piece of legislation is another betrayal in which you're just stretching it out. Stop stretching it out. We won. We're here. We beat the system. We're now the biggest business in the country. You need to come in and help these people do what they have to do. Because right now, all you've done is stretch
Thank you.
it. I've taken
Thank you.
3 years
No, no.
off from standing here.
Thank you.
And you brought
Thank
me
you.
back.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank Mr. Summers. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank Mr. Summers. Mr. Summers. Thank you. Okay. Yes, sir. You
Good
are.
afternoon, Moses Shakarian. That is a
Okay.
tough act to follow. With Bacchus Law, I'm here to speak about the not allowing manufacturing and other businesses other than retailers. I believe that is going to cause a major issue, of course, here for local business. I suggest grandfathering already existing businesses in that meet certain criteria. I would be happy to forward that, such as zoning and already being up to par with what the state requires. I would also request that you possibly have a temporary license for new businesses trying to come into the space. I believe by doing this, you are going to undermine your own social equity program, as all of the money that these people of color and marginalized people have gathered to get these licenses and keep these businesses running are going to be adversely affected by this legislation. So I strongly urge you, for the sake of the people of Los Angeles, to reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker. You are, sir.
Yes. Good morning, James Raza Lawrence from the Margolin Lawrence Law Office. And my law firm has dealt with a recurring problem where there's competing groups or factions of people claiming the right to control the same medical marijuana business. And there's been a lot of confusion due to the fact that these have been all set up as nonprofit collectives under state law, and specifically who has the right to control the BTRC or apply on behalf of the organization is a recurring problem. We would suggest the city set up some type of hearing process or perhaps efficient arbitration process to decide who has the right to control these organizations in the event of the disputes. I also wanted to reiterate the need for some type of grandfathering or temporary licenses for existing businesses that have been complying with state law, paying taxes, and employing local people. There's a lot of investments, taxes, and jobs that'll go down the tubes if every place is forced to shut down in order to reapply. Also, I just wanted to propose for the social equity program, I would suggest if people who have prior convictions under Prop D or under the marijuana laws get a bonus in applying for the social equity program, that people with convictions be directly rewarded with a chance to apply.
Thank you. Thank you. Is it Ms. Thompson? Come forward. Are you an attorney too?
No, I'm not.
Okay, I think we got enough attorneys in this room to create several jokes, but still. Anyway, I just wanted to find out if you were one as well.
No.
Mr. Margolin, that's just in fun. The attorney thing was just so fun. Go ahead. Because Mr. Weezer.
My name is
Go
Joy
ahead.
Thompson.
Yeah.
I'm the founder of Global Cannabis Collective, and that consists of Natural Lifestyles and New South Development Corporation, amongst other companies that form the collective. I just have a really simple question. It was just something that I read on the invitation here, actually. It says, and this may be a dumb question, but
No such thing.
my grandmother always told
No
me there's
such
no
thing.
dumb questions,
No
only
such
dumb
thing.
answers. Okay, it says the recommendation regulations released Friday will shut down all existing non-retail operators in LA. What do they mean by non-retail operators?
Well, I would imagine if you've been here, cultivators, what else? Who else? Shout out some things.
I mean,
Okay, Joy, like I said,
I don't get that non-retail
but like I
because
said,
if we're,
when we first started, and I don't know if you were here then, because your card may have been the last card that I got. We recognize that that's an issue.
Okay.
And we're just trying to figure out what route we're going to take to address that. And we will do that. It's just I'm not going to slow this process down because I'm not quite ready to recommend to my colleagues how we address that issue.
Okay.
So I do appreciate you coming, and there's about 175 people here that will take you in the back and explain all of those details to you if you want to talk some more about it.
no, I definitely just want it to be clear because, I'm in the business.
What do you do?
I have a dispensary. We're a social enterprise, and the money that we receive from the dispensary provides of course, support for our nonprofit, our mission is to help people who have been affected by poverty.
And you're where about?
We're
Located
in
where?
South Central LA on 73rd and South Broadway, so
Okay.
7103 South Broadway. And we actually have a security company that is located directly next to our dispensary, and we also train people for dispensary or cannabis-related security.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Thank you for coming down, okay?
Okay, you're
and I'm
welcome.
sure I'll see you again.
I'm sure.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm closing the, like I said, I'm not taking any more cards, but in the interest of time, I do have some cards, members, on item 1. So I'm just going to take that testimony or that public comment now. So if I could get, is it Daniel Curtis? Is it a Garrett Wood? Dean Santoringo, maybe? All of you people are with Stonebreaker. Alex Marin. Dewey O. Selena Gorman. Yes.
Hi there. Good afternoon. I just want to thank you first off for your commitment to this process. My name is Daniel Curtis. I'm with Stonebreaker Distribution. We're a member of the United Cannabis Business Association. Because we are a non-retail business, we're very concerned about the elimination of priority processing for non-retail businesses. And I'm very concerned that if we are forced to shut down, that in the meantime, the distribution segment of the value chain will be occupied by large distributors from Northern California. And that if we're not able to operate for those initial months, that it will be very difficult to continue to have relationships and continue to make employment for residents of Los Angeles. And for that reason, I hope that non-retail priority processing is reinstated and that distribution is included in that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, please.
Hello, my name is Garrett Wood. I work for Daniel at Stonebreaker Distribution. Actually, I share his same sentiment. If non-priority licensure is not available for distributors, then that affects my livelihood and affects my job. And Stonebreaker takes care of me financially and as well as providing insurance for me. So without those things, that makes my life a little bit harder, and then I have to struggle to find something else that works, with my background. So I'm here to talk to you today about priority licensure for distributors, so that there's no gap in the continuation. Yep. So that is my sentiment as well. Thank you, guys.
Next, and I think you guys meant to sign up for item 3, but come on. Identify
Sorry about
yourself.
that.
No
Yes.
problem.
My name is Dean Satriano, and I work for Stonebreaker, a member of the UCBA. We're a distributor based here in Los Angeles. I'm here today because I want to ensure that distribution businesses are eligible for priority processing and provisional licensure. Under the proposed regulations, licensed retailers require licensed distributors to obtain their compliant cannabis. I ask the City Council to help this industry continue to operate legally. I make my living serving the retailers that serve the patients here in Los Angeles. I'm asking you to please not put my livelihood at risk. Please make distributors eligible for priority processing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming down. Next speaker.
Hello, my name is Alex Marin, also from Stonebreaker, so I don't want to kind of be a broken record and repeat the same thing that they're saying. But I'm not really too sure. One thing that I learned this past week was that during the 1920s, during Prohibition, Walgreens actually did provide prescription whiskey. So that is just something, just so you guys know, that the regulations will come. Like the gentleman before said, that it's already happening. So it's just a matter of getting everything well regulated to the point to where the city is benefiting from the taxes received. We're operating in a legal manner, and everyone is really benefiting from this. At the end of the day, it's not going away, so it's just a matter of just finalizing everything, getting everything on point, and just seeing it grow and just helping every person and party involved in this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello, Council. My name is Dewey O, and I work for Stonebreaker Distribution, a member of the UCBA. I'm here today to voice my concerns for priority processing and licensure for distributors in Los Angeles and not take it away from the city. Licensed retailers will need licensed distribution to obtain compliant cannabis. This job allows me to take care of my family and my sole source of income. I hope the city takes this into consideration for need for compliant distribution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, the cleanup person. You're it.
Yay, the mom. My name is Selena Groman. I work with Stonebreaker Distribution. We are a member of UCBA. I'm just here to maybe remind you or point out the fact that there might have been a slight loophole. You have authorized provisional licenses for retailers as well as manufacturers, and yet you are requiring a distributor to be the middleman, yet there were no provisional licenses available for that. So I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't an actual loophole that we didn't get into or weren't aware of or something like that, and just to make sure that business can continue to run as smoothly as possible during this transition, as I don't think Los Angeles City was in any way, shape, or form in the business of losing jobs or revenue in our city.
Thank you. Thank you for coming down. In fact, I want to thank everybody for coming down. That concludes public comment on these items. Now, Mr. Weezer, it's my understanding that you had a couple of amendments. If you would share those, then we can move forward. I can then check with Mr. Harris Dawson.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I'd like to ask that we amend one of my previous amendments in notification and to include the business improvement districts in the group. Business improvement districts provide supplemental services in certain parts of the city, and oftentimes if there is a new use in the area, they should be made aware of. So if we could add that to the notification system that we have with other groups. Secondly, I would like to ask that we report back from the Bureau of Contract Administration letting us know what additional resources they will need in order to support the department in enforcing labor standards in this new industry. I would also ask the CAO to include in their report back how the positions would be funded. It's my second amendment. And third, I see that one of my amendments was included in the draft regulations but slightly changed. I would like to ask the city attorney to see if we could include language that arms the Cannabis Department and Commission with the ability to add stricter restrictions for public safety reasons. Okay. Sometimes we add, for example, now in CUP applications for alcohol, there's certain additional restrictions. that may apply to a particular location. In this instance, we want to make sure that we are able to add some conditions when it concerns public safety reasons.
The chair would view those as friendly.
Thank you.
Mr.
And Mr. President, I just have some questions on two other areas.
Okay,
if
who
I
do
could.
we need?
Is the planning department here or someone from the planning department? Okay, thanks. This is just as a point of discussion, and I understand that right now, do we currently have limitations on who can appeal city entitlements?
For Tom Rothman, Planning Department, we do not have any restrictions on who can appeal discretionary entitlement for projects that do go to the Planning Department.
And what's the appeal criteria right now when somebody appeals, for example, alcohol, adult entertainment, massage parlors? What type of appeal criteria do we have for that?
I think there's got to be evidence there was either an error in the process or there was sort of an abuse of discretion, but other than that, there really are no criteria that we ask for when somebody fills out an appeal application.
So who can appeal it right now for these types?
Anybody who believes they are aggrieved by our decision.
And how about for cannabis right now?
There are no rules for cannabis in the zoning code at the moment.
Okay. And so I just wanted to point this out as a point of discussion, is that currently as our regulations are written, there's a 500-foot limitation as to who can appeal. But in all our other planning processes, anybody who has a grievance, correct?
That's correct.
The rationale then for making this 500-foot is what, or feet?
I'm not aware of the rationale. We did not write that portion of this ordinance. We wrote the location restriction ordinance, which just said about the correct zones and the buffering, the appeals for the whatever the ordinance is called, the enforcement and the regulations was not drafted by the planning department.
And then I think it's 800 feet where a dispensary can be from a sensitive use.
Correct. That did come from the location ordinance that the planning department drafted.
So let's say you have someone within 500 to 800 feet that's a sensitive use. They can't appeal, but yet they're within the realm. So that's just something I think we should look into, Mr. President, is currently one dispensary cannot be next to other sensitive uses by 800 feet, yet the only people who could appeal have to be within 500 feet. And to put it even in a larger context, none of our other land use appeals require any feet distance. It's just whoever is aggrieved. So that's something for further discussion. I understand as this process goes by, that may be something we might want to look into further.
Okay. We will discuss that. Mr. Harris Dawson.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair and Councilmember Huizar and everybody who came today. I appreciate your motion about the notification. Hold on.
Don't run off.
I had a question. I noticed in the regulations we changed from looking at BTRCs in 2016 and 17 to 2013, and I'm just trying to get a sense of what that means in terms of density of existing operators, or if that's something that's even been examined.
Are you which piece of this legislation are you referring to? The location restriction ordinance that came from the planning department, or this new enforcement and business regulations ordinance?
The regulations.
That was not drafted. We're the planning department. We did not draft that piece. We only drafted the zones and the buffering distances.
So we want to make a note of. I want to go on record making a note about questions about that, and just more generally, Mr. Chair, and I want to make sure I go on record saying this to everybody in the audience. One of I think folks makes good points about the supply chain and having a healthy and thriving industry, and one that the city of Los Angeles can benefit from and the people of Los Angeles can benefit from. At the same time, one of the things folks were promised in Measure M was that we could deal with the issue of overconcentration. So in my district, there are, by our count, 5 dispensaries, and I'm only talking about retail now, 5 dispensaries that met the requirements to move forward. But if we, at the last hour, open it up so that all 138 that are operating in my district at this moment, just, if we said if you're open now, we'll provide you with a provisional license. If we do that is a direct betrayal of what we promised the voters last November. And so I think this is something we've got to take a hard look at, and I think it's very, very important. But I just want the folks who are concerned about that piece to remember that this was something that was communicated directly to the voters over and over and over again, and they responded by supporting Measure M with a resounding majority. So I just wanted to go on record and have everybody, at least in my district, know that we pointed this out. And we'll formally request that the Department of Finance speak to the question of the amount, the moving from the date from 2016-17 to 2013, because I believe that that's the entity that would know what the implication of that was with regard to density.
Okay, so I do think at this point we're ready to proceed. So let's deal with Mr. Clerk on item 1. Can we take up 1 and 3 together, or?
Mr. Chair, you can take up items 1 and 3 together. However, there would be 2 separate committee reports.
All right, well, let's just go with item 1. Then, without objection, I recommend that we adopt the recommendations of the chair on item 2, the same thing as amended. Okay?
Pardon, Mr. Chair, we're amending item 2 and
recommending item 2 recommendations of the chair as amended. So you have amendments that we were, Mr. Weezar's amendments. And
okay, those were for item 2 or 3?
That's my bad, item 3.
Okay.
That's my mistake. Okay. My mistake. All right, so there's any more business before this committee?
Mr. Chair, I believe we still have a recommendation for item number 3. Was that approved by the committee?
Yeah, both of them.
Okay,
we
for
did
items
3.
1 and 3.
Yep. Yes,
okay.
we did. All right, so we handled both of those issues. There's no further issues before this committee. This committee's adjourned.